going on, friends, family? My name is Skylent, and today I'm talking about Monster Hunter, and I'm specifically going to be reviewing the insect glaive weapon inside the game. The game's been out for a while, but the thing is like I'm just now getting around to it. Even though I've owned it on PS4 forever, I actually played the beta, and that was some of the biggest and most fun streams I've ever done, honestly. Oh, man, and I've played boss rush games, boss in a box games for a while, but I just kind of wanted to detour, played a little bit of Dauntless, and honestly, I got a little bit depressed when the game came out, so, you know, it just took me a little bit to kind of get back into it. But, dude, playing it, oh man, and Iceborne is stupid fun. But definitely, you know, I have a wealth of experience to compare and contrast other games like this. You know, like, I guess you could say Horizon Zero Dawn, even Dark Souls to an extent. Just the literal mechanical feel of these games and how they compare. I definitely, you know, like, I love these games for what they do special, and I have to say that Insect Glaive of Monster Hunter is what makes it probably the most unique experience. I think Insect Glaive is just the most unique experience out of most games. I'm trying to, like, even comparing it to like MMOs and things or looter shooters. Insect Glaive is just this really wild weapon that's really kind of like two concepts put together that just fucking works amazingly. Anyways, so this is definitely like a rant style review. Hopefully that's fine, but this is just kind of a light video anyways in the end. Something that I don't know if people really care about, but for me personally, and maybe I know some people in different genres, like people will review individual guns when they get updated to games. Obviously, when characters like Overwatch, in Overwatch and Paladins, I would cover those, MOBAs especially. So individual parts of games, especially like fighting games, when a new character comes out, that basically is almost like a new game. It's like a new way to play. Sometimes it changes roles up, or it can feel totally different, and it needs to be reviewed. That is something that's very special and unique, that part of the game. So different classes, I think, should be reviewed individually inside of games. And I think overall it's a little toxic to just review games vaguely in 5 minutes, very poetically with the, you know, the trailer footage that you just throw in there, looking at IGN. I think we need to do reviews more episodically and more individually, more specifically. So here's one of them, I guess. Here's something I'm doing. I'm playing Monster Hunter, and I'm using the Insect Glaive. Now, I have not just used the Insect Glaive, don't get me wrong, this isn't just my main weapon that I've used since the start. I've played with all the different weapons at least a little bit, and I know of them, but the Insect Glaive is just by far the one that really speaks to me personally. Though I was willing to actually play ranged weapons, I tried a lot of the heavy bow gun, and just bows in general, but no, Insect Glaive is just comparing and contrasting to games like this, and also MMOs, and all the other games I'm playing. I have to say, Insect Glaive is just the standout. I think Insect Glaive wouldn't be too far-fetched to see in something like Black Desert, maybe? But, you know, with the verticality, no. This thing, you're almost, I don't know. You're just so anime. You're never just kind of standing still with this weapon, which is really great. It's very crazy and Super Saiyan and ridiculous and helicopter. I don't know. You are just doing a whole lot on the screen. It basically turns Monster Hunter almost into a spectacle fighter, something like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry. It's just that insane. It's weird because a lot of the other weapons, such as heavy bowgun to the great sword, the hammers, they can feel very sluggish and clunky, and that's kind of part of the charm as well. But then you just got the Insect Glaive, and you know, there's dual swords that are pretty hyperactive too, and you can be pretty hype with the bow, but dude, Insect Glaive is just the definition of hype. Alright, but why am I so excited about this particular weapon, and why does it work so well inside a Monster Hunter world? Like I said already, compared to other games, like if you compare it to Horizon Zero Dawn technically has a spear, but it plays absolutely nothing like the Insect Glaive. You don't really have vertical combat in Dark Souls. A lot of other Monster Hunter games, you might do some kind of, not like Insect Glaive, I think, in the end. And also, like, if you compare it to MMOs, which I think is pretty fair. A lot of these action RPGs, dungeon divers, and MMOs have kind of a gameplay loop like Monster Hunter. You know, you dive into a dungeon, fight a big raid boss or whatever. But, dude, none of those games have anything like Insect Glaive. So basically, yeah, it's Dragoon. This is the best version of the Dragoon archetype, which was really kind of, I think, founded by Final Fantasy. You know, basically you have a dude with a spear and they jump in the air. They're supposed to be mobile and they have kind of interesting abilities that, yeah, from game to game, they kind of mix it up. But in this game, so you're jumping all over the place, but your kind of gimmick or your magic is an kinsect? I'm saying kinsect. That's what it's called, but you get a bug bro. You get a bug bro, and you basically are a pet or slash summoner class at the same exact time of being this hyperactive, like probably, I think the best version of a Dragoon in any game. You know, just you're jumping all over the place, doing ridiculous combos, while at the same time you have to manage your pet so that it's, you know, it's keeping up, it's doing damage, and you know, it's assisting you in applying status effects, things like that. But then also, depending on where the insect, because you kind of have to aim it, so you have to aim, and there's multiple ways actually to mark different parts of a monster, but you do have to mark different parts of a monster, aim the kinsect, and then attach it, so like the head, the tail, the wings or whatever, and it brings back a particular style buff. So 1 gives you a whole new moveset, you know, you do tons of damage, and you just become Super Saiyan. I think 2 is speed, and 3 is defense, and you get all 3, and you're just like a god, you're just a helicopter god, and you just do the shit. I don't know, I'm being goofy, but it is actually really that goofy of a weapon. So yeah, you know, you're just real silly, just cheesing it up. But you do have to actually manage your insect, and you throw it out into the world, the 3D space, and it's not just like an instant comeback, instant throw out. And whenever it's attacking, you have to worry about where it is in relation to the monster, because monsters can move around. Their wings might be in the way of their head, and you have to reposition, which isn't a problem with the insect glaive, but it's just, you're just kind of doing a lot, managing your stamina, managing, you know, the insect, your buffs, things like that. And then you have all the general management of Monster Hunter, such as, you know, do you need this this buff? Do you need to drink this thing, eat this thing? You know, the positioning of it all. You know, are you going to set traps? Things like that. Should you use a claw here? Should you be trying to mount right now? Should you be trying to sever the tail or aiming at the head to break off horns? Things like that, where your teammates are in relation to you, I guess sometimes can matter because they can knock you around and stuff like that. And then, and on top of all that, the customization and how you can play with your, I guess with your spear and kinsect, it's kind of interesting. There's a couple of different ways you can play, though not as varied maybe as like the bow gun, or yeah, some weapons you do have a larger variety of ways to play. But overall, I think it's pretty cool. You can choose to be more of an air-based, so you're just constantly in the air flying around, or you almost play more like the switch axe, where you're kind of staying in place and just doing crazy combos, crazy damage, or maybe even a kinsect-focused build, heavy element damage, and you're just mostly doing the kinsect and hit and run kind of attacks, possibly. Dude, fuck, there is some choice and decisions to be made here with this weapon, and I love the unique roles that Monster Hunter has. So yeah, we do have to branch out and kind of review the game at a macro sense when we talk about, obviously, any one little part of it. But what's really cool about the insect glaive, which, man, more MMOs definitely need this, more other games need factors to this, but you do have a unique role as an insect glaive user, since you, more than other classes, I think, you mount and you can apply certain status effects, maybe like paralysis, generally very easy, I guess. Like you can just, I mean, you're the mounter, basically. Like, you're the one who kind of sets up, flies through the air. You're just a very consistent damage dealer. Even though you don't do the biggest, chunkiest deeps consistently, you know, whenever there's like a down state, you're just always doing damage. You're always doing something. And then, yeah, mounting and then, you know, setting up the monster to fall down so that everyone can do their big, chunky damage, their big nukes. That's an important role. That's something that we don't get in a lot of MMOs or other action RPG, because just in general, CC is not something that you really get. You know, you get it in single player ARPG, such as Horizon Zero Dawn, maybe Legend of Zelda. You know, you can stun enemies and you can do certain combos with traps and things like that, or with the physics of the game. But, you know, Monster Hunter World has so many different DPS roles that are just entirely not even thought of in other games. Other games, it's just like, oh, you're a melee damage dealer? Oh, you are a ranged damage dealer? Maybe one is an AoE damage dealer. I don't know. Depends on the style of game. But in monster hunting games, you generally don't have that. But overall, yeah, no, the insect glaive being like the mounter, the one that's just flying all over the place, generally the one that is just always up, always doing something. And yeah, you know, depending on how you build it, you could be the one that's applying status effects consistently. I guess maybe, if you want, you could be the poisoner, though I think that's more light bowgun, possibly. I don't really know. I'm still getting into the game, obviously. Can't be a full review, fully. But overall, I just feel like, no, I feel like I'm part of a team. I feel like I have choice in my RPG mechanics, and I just feel like I'm having so much fun. There is definitely a power fantasy to being a helicopter of doom. And then I gotta end it by saying that this is really eye-opening for me as a class, because I didn't even realize that this is a summoner class. And I just gotta geek out about this real quick, okay? So the idea that you have an insect, and basically you just throw it out, and the insect comes back to you when it hits the monster, or you can keep it out and it does damage and applies stuff, whatever. But you call it back and you get the buff. Basically, it's almost like the bug is like chomping on the monster and then bringing it back so that you can kind of get a power buff. So basically it's a buffer, but compare that to other games where like the buffer summoning style classes is like it summons a totem, or it's just a turret, or it's just a spirit that just stands still and radiates an aura. But this is something that you actively have to micro and manage and really think about. And even though the class is mostly mechanically about being a helicopter, about really just like, even though it's a very non-summoner class, like you don't have lots of bugs to manage, it's not like there's an army, even though it's not that kind of summoner class, because you have so many actions that you have to do in between managing the kinsect, which is generally a very simple task. So if this class was just kinsect management, it would be pretty boring. But because it's so heavily tied in with the combos and how you actually utilize your character, which when you do, it's so crazy. The power fantasy is so fun. It really makes that sort of ebb and flow gameplay just so special, so unique. So even though I love to harsh on summoner style classes for being just buffers or just, spells or whatever, just simple, fireballs, this is a fireball that you kind of boomerang around, fly around, micromanage a little bit, macromanage even to an extent, and then it all ties in with your general kit, because you have to be on it. It's not just fire and forget once. You have to consistently be on this and interweave it in all of your combos, which are pretty intricate themselves. So yeah, Insect Glaive is definitely a class where you could just press buttons and it would look cool, but when you actually master it at the same time, the skill ceiling is incredible, and I think it plays with the general mechanics of Monster Hunter World fantastically. Especially when you're fighting dragons, and they're jumping in the air, flying, and you're just right there with them, battling them, and hitting them down, mounting them, and slamming them into the ground, so your team can hack off tails and stuff like that. Most monsters are mostly fun with the Insect Glaive, though I have to say that in the end, there is a kind of a little issue with Monster Hunter where it's like, really, it's like most monsters are designed so that they can be beaten by most weapons. So I don't know how you feel about that, because in a lot of cases you do just use the Insect Glaive in the same way for a lot of monsters, and then but there are some monsters where you do have to play totally different. So I think the dog style characters that are very quick and very low to the ground, you do actually have to change around your mechanics. Though they did recently, they added the claw with Iceborne, and they actually gave us new abilities with the Insect Glaive. So now we have a spike that rams down and then marks the enemy, so that we can actually use our kinsect a little bit better. So I'm sorry if I used some jargon or I didn't elucidate the mechanics well enough. I just kind of wanted to talk about this. Like, if you know Monster Hunter and you know of the Insect Glaive, then this is maybe more of the review for you. Kind of how like music video reviews are done, like they kind of just assume you've listened to it already and we're just talking about it. So yeah, guys, this is just me being hyped about the Insect Glaive. I don't know. I just wanted to try a video like this, and if these do well, then maybe I'll put a little bit more production value into it. But I definitely had fun with this. I think, in my opinion, it is the best weapon in Monster Hunter. I think it is the most unique weapon in Monster Hunter, and also kind of the really prominent, shining beacon of light that compared to other games in a similar genre, or games that I guess you could barely compare it to. Apples, oranges, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, Insect Glaive is hype, and definitely a little bit of shame looking at Final Fantasy, where this class is more summonery, debatably, and definitely way more Dragoon than what Final Fantasy XIV has. Though, it's different games, Sky, different games. I don't know. All I'm saying is there's a fantasy here, and there's a mechanical power fantasy that is absolutely lived out in this game versus any that I've had that you could even dare to compare to. It's just fucking fun. That's just it. It's very fun, and it can be challenging, and there's definitely rewarding gameplay here to be had. So if you haven't played with the Insect Glaive, and definitely if you haven't tried Monster Hunter World, you absolutely need to. Please and thank you. All right, guys, so that's it. My glowing yay applause and review of the insect glaive. If you guys want to see more videos like this, talking about specific classes in games, I do want to go more into details and do more stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. So yeah, give me some love, guys. Hope you guys had fun, and I'll see you in the next one.